Hello, I'm Dave and this is Logan, out once again for a walk in the countryside. Thanks for joining us. Now today we're at the pretty village of East Meon in Hampshire. It's about 4.5 miles to the west of Petersfield and 19 miles or so to the north of Portsmouth. We're in the South Downs National Park and we're going to be doing a roughly 4-mile circular route. We'll have a look at the village itself before heading northwards. Should get to see some quite gorgeous countryside and then head back south, and with a bit of luck we're going to see if we can find the source of the River Meon. Now I'm filming in the middle of February. The sun is out, fair bit of blue sky, but it is bitterly cold. It was quite a frost this morning. It's probably only about 2 degrees now, so we're well wrapped up, but it should be a great winter's walk. So do come along with us. Okay, well, we'll start off with a little wander through the village. The car park is just down there, and then we've got the village hall over there, built in the 1970s. Now the sun is quite low today, so I'm going to have a challenge with that. We're walking along a workhouse lane. The village had its own workhouse in 1727. It closed in 1830 and the actual building itself was burnt down in 1910. I'll tell you, there's some lovely houses in the village. Now, hopefully you can see this. It's a bit dark because we're on the northern side. This is Bottle Cottage, built before 1800, named after a bottle in the wall. It was originally 2 labourers' cottages, and yes, I can just about see the bottle on the top of the wall there. Wow, isn't that lovely? This is Tudor House. It was a medieval whorehouse converted in the 1580s from a 14th century hall to a farmhouse. And just in front of me here, our first sighting today of the River Meon. We'll be seeing that quite a few times during the walk. The reason I wanted to come down here is, yes, here we go, in front of me here. This building was once a pub called the Angel Inn. It's now called Cross Cottages, but it was built in the 17th century. Isn't that delightful? And just down here, as I say, it is the River Meon. Runs 21 miles. The source isn't too far from here, so hopefully we're going to find that towards the end of the walk. And it flows down to Hillhead near Stubbington. We've actually been to the estuary there and filmed there. And I've read that it's reputed to be one of the highest chalk streams in England, because it actually flows on a clay bed about 40 foot above the water table. The locals, by the way, call the place East Meon rather than Meon. And as far as where it gets the name from, well, like Meon Stoke and the Meon Valley, it's really named after the River Meon. And that got its name from the fact that in the 6th century, a tribe of Jutes came here and populated the area. They were called the Meonwara. As to where they got their name from, it's open to debate, possibly from the River Meon in Germany. Oh, look at these. This is Forge Sound on the left and Riverside on the right. And there used to be a track to a ford in between the two. Now, both of these are quite tall houses, and they still actually retain the timber structures built in the early 13th century. They're actually single-aisled hall houses in that their roof beams reach almost to the ground on one side of each hall, forming an aisle. The aisle on the Forge Sound is to the west of the house, and on the riverside it's to the east. And I was reading that the riverside used to be a butcher's shop in the early 20th century. And what a beautiful setting with the hill behind them. Just coming back from Forge Sound and Riverside, which are on the sort of east side of the main street that goes to the village. You've got this delightful little green, and over there that's the Isaac Walton pub. Originally it was called the New Inn, and it appears on an 1897 map, so I'm guessing it's been here for a while. And there's the river that goes through the middle of the village. It was rerouted in the 1950s, I believe, after a major flood. But it is so pretty here. And just here on my left, this is the White Cottage, a 17th century timber frame building with 19th century additions. So well maintained. Two lovely cottages side by side, and these have got a bit of history as well. The old Bell Cottage was the saddlery on one side, and there was an ale house on the other. In days of old, when you only had one pair of shoes, you'd come here, have them mended while drinking ale next door. Well, we're now going to make our way slightly northwards towards the church, passing by the Old George Inn, which I expect will be our final destination on the walk. It was originally a farmhouse. The present building dates from the 17th century, although a rental book from the village indicates that there was a beer house here in 1567. And just before we explore the church, which you can see in the background there, this is the almshouses in front of me. In fact, directly in front of me, looks like there's an old well. I'll put a photo of the plaque up for you to read. And here are the almshouses themselves, built in 1863. Okay, well, the last thing we'll look at before we head out into the countryside is the magnificent church. A beautiful setting. And just on my right here, so it looks a bit dark because the sun is so low. Those are also almshouses, but these were built in 1904. Wow, isn't that stunning in the morning winter sunshine? All Saints Church, built between 1075 and 1150 on the site of an earlier Saxon church. And they say it very much resembles Winchester Cathedral in style. It's certainly the oldest building in the village. Originally in the shape of a cross with a nave, chancel and north and south transepts, the tower was built in 1150 and the lead-covered brooch spire added in around 1230 when the south chapel and south aisle were added. Now, because it lies tight up against a hill, there was no room to actually build a north aisle. The chancel was rebuilt between 1470 and 1498, but there was a major restoration in 1869 when the three-face clock was added, and there were further refurbishments in 1906 and 1922. Okay, in we go. Now the question is, how dark is it in here? Oh, at least there's some lighting next to this. Well, isn't this quite something special? There's a terrific black marble baptismal font created in Tournai in Belgium, and it's one of only 4 such fonts in Hampshire. The other ones are at Winchester Cathedral, St Maryborn and St Michael's Church at Southampton. And it was given to the church by the Lord of the Manor, Bishop Henry de Blois, who was grandson of William the Conqueror. And although referred to as marble, it's actually a dark limestone that polishes up well. But the carvings around it are fantastic. The 2 sides of them, it's the story of Adam and Eve with the serpent. And yes, there's a few figures there with fig leaves on and someone eating an apple on the left-hand side there. And another side, it's Norman symbolism, really, looking almost quite Viking. with the dragon head symbols. And just looking inside here, the lining used to be lead, but in the 17th century, the Roundheads nicked that when they were making musket balls before heading off for the Battle of Cheriton in 1644. What a magnificent font. Okay, well, let's have a little wander down here. We'll see how much of this we can actually see without me being able to find the lights, which is my usual problem here. There's another font here, not quite as ornate as the other one, but quite old nonetheless. And just panning around. Now, I might have to put a photograph up of this if it's too dark, but this pulpit here, now it dates from 1706, but for the first 200 years of its life, it was in the Church of Holy Trinity Minories, I think that's how you pronounce it, in the around near the Tower of London. And just to the side here, wonderful tapestry. It's relatively new. It was made by a team of local embroiderers, finished in 2008, but it took them a decade to make. There might be a bit of glare off the spotlight, but hopefully that gives you an idea of obviously houses and scenes from the village. Brilliant. And, you can see, I love it in here. It's full of little interesting features to explore. Up here, Bell, HMS Mercury. That was a Ministry of Defence site located to the east of here. It closed in 1993. And then have a little peep in here. Beautiful the way that the lighting has been set up in front of the stained glass window there. And then just moving around. And this obviously is the main altar with the main east window behind it. And I believe that was a memorial to those that lost their lives in World War I. You can see the various symbols of nations above each of the figures there. Now, I was reading that in days gone by, they used to have someone called a knock-knobbler, who was a person appointed by the church to eject unruly dogs from acts of worship. So, you've been on your best behaviour, haven't you? He's a good boy. Well, I'm sure you'll agree that really was a quite splendid church. Now, just before we go out into the countryside, there's one more thing to look at, which is just on the other side of the road from the church. And I keep moaning on about the sun, which is lovely to see, but it's in the wrong direction, so hopefully you'll be able to see it. It's the courthouse with a medieval hall, and it dates from the 14th century, and it was basically an administration centre. I mean, courts were operated here, and also home to a number of monks and servants who played host to the Bishop of Winchester when he visited. He actually owned most of the village at one stage. And in the 17th century, a substantial farmhouse was added, and in the 20th century, a north wing was added, linking up with the 18th century cottage just to the left by the road. But the building has been restored. It really is quite impressive. Well, Logan's pleased to report we're now about to start our walk into the countryside. So we're now following a path that goes to the north of the church. And well, just behind me here is Park Hill. And indeed it was once a park owned by the Bishop of Winchester. But beautiful. Just, I love the way you get the contours on some of these valleys. And we've got a fair bit of blue sky today. And just panning around, look at these snowdrops, my goodness. I say we're only just mid-February and they're out already in the sunshine. What a fantastic display. Wonderful. Well, continuing to make our way north, just crossing a little road by, well, these are Chalkdale Cottages. Ooh, look out, Logan, looks like there's a cat in charge around here. I'll say across the road and we should pick up the footpath on this other side, and wow, we really will start to get some beautiful scenes now. And we're going to be heading down the footpath there along the side of the field. Some glorious scenery along this little route here, and if I just show you the woods over there, we'll be going through those, or the bottom of them anyway, on the homeward journey. Now there's a house just on my left called Colchester, I think it is. Beautiful, built in 1906, and must have some fantastic views over the valley here. While continuing to make my way northwards, but just on my right here, another beautiful valley. Again, natural shapes there. And this is Mascombe Bottom. There are quite a few rabbits out there. I think I might just keep Logan on the lead just for a little bit, going through this bit. Isn't that a beautiful sight? I know I keep going on about the weather today. I think you get so used to so many dull days in the winter, don't you? It just shows that sometimes it really is quite magical. We've made our way to Drayton Farm, and this is as far north as we're going to go. So we're just going to follow a tiny little road. It's going to take us over the River Meon, starting to head southwards now. Just a little bit of housekeeping. This is probably a walk best done during the summer months. A little bit of mud in one of the fields near the farm. It wasn't impassable, but I know if some people don't like mud at all, so if you're one of those, it's a summer walk. Or just a little pit stop to show you where we've been and where we're going. So that's where we've come down when we were heading north, and just along here there's the old Drayton Mill, but we're not going to go past that. We came down that field there, there's Drayton Farm. We've come along this road over the river, and we are just about to now head up here. And we're going to be following a byway, Halnaker Lane. A splendid bit of woodland here going along this byway. I love it this time of year when when you haven't got the leaves on the trees, it just lets that little bit more light in and you can see the contours of the land, and yet you can still see the beams of sunlight coming through. It's very peaceful in here. Well, another little pit stop. So this is just a look on the other side of the valley to the east. And well, I know sometimes views don't always come across that well on a GoPro, but take it from me, it is quite stunning. And so this is the side. Oh, lovely. You see the catkins starting to come through. I say spring is coming incredibly early. Well, another important part of the walk, again, if you're going to be doing this after watching the video, this is as far south as we're going to go on Halnaker Lane. And just behind me here, there's a finger post, the South Downs Way, which is an old friend of ours. Of course, the whole route's, what, 100-mile long-distance path from Eastbourne in the east to Winchester in the west. But it carries on up there. But we, as I just pan around, watch the sun, we're now going to start heading eastwards back towards the village, although we're not going to go there straight away. Another one of these wow moments. Everything looks so fresh at the moment. So East Meon's just on the other side of that hill, so we're going to walk along this path to the barn over there, and then they say this is looking to the east, and right at the top of the hill in the far distance, that tower, that's Butser Hill with the tower on top. Now, just as I'm wandering along here, a few folk have been asking for an update on my puppy Fiver, who's actually nearly 12 months old. He will, yeah, his birthday's in about 2 weeks' time. Yeah, he's coming on nicely. He's been doing a lot of obedience training. His first competition will probably be in May. He's done a little bit of dog showing as well, and he's qualified for Crufts, so he's going to go there. I think he'll be making up the numbers there, but we'll have a good day out. And I'm hoping to do something called the Muddy Dog Challenge with him in May, which is a sort of 5-kilometre race with, inverted commas, obstacles. Apparently he has to wear a special harness, and he's attached to me and runs alongside. We'll see if we can film that. Depends how embarrassing it is. Well, what an exquisite picture that makes, with the East Meon village and the church nestling beneath Park Hill. But our journey is far from complete. Just panning around, we're going to continue down this little farm track and then along the road there, and then through those woods. Just finished an uphill bit. So we've passed Duncombe Cottage, gone through a little wooded area along the side of a hill and then up the hill. Now, the path back to the village is just behind me here, but we're going to do a little detour, probably, I don't know, another 3/4 of a mile or so, sort of a southwards direction, just to see if we can find this, the source of this river. I hope it's there. Now, I don't think Logan's quite sure what to make of these two here. I've got a nice shaggy coat to keep them warm during the winter, that's for sure. Right, we're nearly there, folks. Making our way through this this farm. Now, just on the right, I know it's getting a little bit dark now, but there's a field. It's called Fairfield, and apparently there was an annual fair used to be held here on Lady Day, 25th of March, but it petered out at the end of the 19th century. And there also used to be, now it's either in this field or the next one along, a chapel of ease. I think that's called Chapel Field, and it was annexed to East Meon Church. It was called St Mary in the Fields, but apparently it was described in 1703 as being quite down, but I don't believe there's any remains of it now. Well, folks, we've made it to the source of the River Meon. Now, I'll warn you now, it's not quite as impressive as the source of the River Itchen that we saw on our walk at Cheriton. Let's go and have a look. So we've come through a farm. There's a rather loud dog nearby. Now, I'm going to basically have to poke the camera through. It's in private land through here, but there it is, basically down there. It's a sort of, well, half dried out pond, but that's the source. And it becomes quite a substantial stream quite quickly, literally 200 or 300 yards down the road when we came through the farm. It's quite big, but there you go. That is the source of the River Meon. Well, folks, we've come to the end of our walk. We thought we'd do the end scene here in front of the source of the River Meon. We hope you enjoyed the walk. If you did, please do give us a thumbs up and a like, and do leave a comment. And do check out our Facebook page, Dave's Countryside Walks. We've had a super walk today, a lovely winter's walk in glorious sunshine. We're back now homeward to the village for a pint of local ale at the Old George Inn. So until we meet again, thanks for watching and cheerio. Good boy.